Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Moriah Nightly News on a very late night edition, mostly due to my Monday night prayer group. Praying, of course, for the things around the world and our region as we continue to follow what's happening with Iran, the Pope, and things here at home. Things over the weekend fell apart with the delegation that met in Pakistan there. The Vice President Vance was there in Islamabad to try and negotiate with the Iranians, and that did not end well. There's about 21 hours of negotiations in that brief press conference that took place following those meetings or talks, and it did not end the way that anyone in the administration had hoped. So we are at the start of a new week with the war, I would say, still raging, but that's not quite what we're looking at. What we're looking at is still with a tentative ceasefire. It is still in effect somewhat. And what was significant in the development over the weekend was that the president ordered a naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz in an attempt to, perhaps to do two things: put more pressure on Iran in terms of either bringing them to the negotiating table, or perhaps an attempt to maybe draw down the conflict that way, putting more economic pressure on Iran and pressuring them that way. And what this very well could do, and this is just my sense of it, or my opinion, if you will, what it very well could do is provide more control to the United States in the long run of who gets in and who gets out of that strait in the coming days. There were reports and from various outlets that there were minesweeping that had been completed by the U.S. Navy. As I believe, it looked like it had been ongoing for some time now. So that is in effect, and a lot of that we don't know at this point. It's not clear how this blockade is, how it's going to be applied, how the U.S. Navy is going to carry that out, to what capacity at this time, as it's only day one. So that will likely be the major headline this week. There were right now in the region there are 16 U.S. warships. That includes the USS Abraham Lincoln, 11 destroyers, 3 amphibious assault ships, and 1 combat ship at the ready. So there's a good amount of naval assets there, along with what's there for the Air Force. So the interesting thing as well was that the Associated Press is reporting the impact that this is having with China, noting that Chinese exports have slowed because of the war in March, and it was not clear by that source if that's because of the oil flow, if it's because of the oil flow has stopped. That was not reported there, so we will have to perhaps follow up on that for Wednesday. But ongoing developments, of course, all across the board, as this is all unfolding rather quickly. And of course, as a one-man show here, we're doing the best we can. Now, of course, what was interesting as well was what was noted by the Associated Press was Russia is pulling out of Iran. They are basically closing up shop on their power plants. This was, from what the Associated Press reported, an Iranian. It's a Russia-backed nuclear power plant in Iran. So that to me is very significant for the long term, in terms of the balance of power in the Middle East, in terms, and really perhaps beyond that, in terms of the balance of power with the way we've seen Russia and China's attempt to rise in the recent decade, last 10 to 20 years. This, in a lot of ways, in my opinion, is shaking that up pretty significantly. Regardless of how it pans out, this war will change the course of history for the next 20 to 30 years. I would say that is unanimous to anyone watching. But you can disagree, of course, on that opinion. Now, one of the very interesting points over the weekend has been the Pope and the President going back and forth, and I had reported or attempted to report on that on Friday, and giving a statement on just war theory and that type of thing, with some audio issues in there that we had. And that's all true and fine. But the president had put out a tweet, and or did I say a tweet? I guess I don't know if they call it a tweet anymore. A post. That might have been on his own platform. Come to think of it. So the president put out a post. Pope Leo had released a statement saying he was not afraid of the president, something to that effect. But one thing that very much basically drew universal criticism across the board, even from those in the Christian community, was Trump retaliating by posting an AI-generated picture of himself as a healer. And I would also agree with that criticism that too much can be too much, even in the fog of war, as they say. So what would be my opinion on that? I would still hold that Pope Leo is breaking with tradition, be that from the Bible and from the church, on what he is saying about the war, not understanding Israel's role in history, in prophecy, things like that. Certainly, I would agree with all of that. And I would agree that the president is. I would agree with many of the things I have said, even as things were rocky in the beginning parts of this program in getting it off the ground. But there is no call for putting yourself as God by any means, because that is not what Trump is. Trump is just as much of a man as you and I, or the Pope, or anybody, and if he needs to be called out, then he needs to be called out on that. And that was inappropriate, blasphemous, and just should not be done by any president, Republican or Democrat. And I will say no more on that. The state headline, very much across the board on the state and local level, was a very slow, I would say slow. Part of the issue was finding the right source material. In terms of the Press Republican, not much was reported over the weekend on state news. So we looked a little further south at the Times Union, and some of that is not searchable without a subscription. So what we found was an article from Spectrum News covering the GOP state comptroller race and what's going on there, and noted that a possible suit against Kathy Hochul, Governor Hochul, for what basically appears to be this sketchy money deal where what it appears to be is this proposal to take these state contracts that right now require a certain amount of approval from the state comptroller, so that the amount right now, so anything under so I was a little bit confused by the article, I admit. But basically, it's if it's under, it looks like if it's under 300,000, or I think if it's under, and then there was a 50,000. I think if it's under 50,000, this is where I'm struggling a little bit here, because there were two numbers. There was a $50,000 figure and a $300,000 figure, and I believe it said that if it's under 50,000, the state comptroller is not required to review the contract. This is if a state bids a contract for something. But the way that this proposal for the budget for 2027 looks, you're talking $3 billion worth of money gets spent with no independent oversight, was the phrase. I was going to say third party, but I guess that's kind of the idea. No outside oversight on $3 billion of taxpayer money, which, whatever that $300,000 or $50,000 that I mentioned was in reference to there, it's probably more of a nuanced figure there to break more of a breakdown. But the point there is that $3 billion gets sort of passed through without any type of regulation, and that is pretty slimy, and that is definitely my opinion, if you can't tell. But you can't make this up. What even was called out in the article was that the current comptroller, Tom DiNapoli, who's been in since about 2009, I believe it was, he is a Democrat, a fellow Democrat, voicing disapproval for this plan. And so this is within the Democratic Party voicing opposition to Kathy Hochul. So again, that is just my take on it. Do with that as you wish. So locally, very much a slow weekend. Not much reported that we have not covered with the Times of Thai coming out on Friday. The Press Republican released in their weekend edition about information about the Ticonderoga Chamber of Commerce having their event on April 22nd. And that's basically a day for businesses to get together with them and update information and basically get a rundown on what their benefits entitle them to as being members of the Ticonderoga Area Chamber of Commerce. And so that is going on from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. On April 22nd at the Thai Chamber. The regional office of sustainable tourism was discussing, and there was an article there about a new data tracking system there, and I mentioned that because I back in college did some work at the Crown Point Bridge. The bridge, the visitor center there, the Lake Champlain Visitor Center. Many of the folks that live here have no idea that that's even there. And that was the old toll house for the Lake Champlain Bridge in 1929. As far as I know, Suzanne May is still there. Wonderful, wonderful woman there. She was my boss at one point there, and she has done a great job running that program through the years at the bridge. In Moriah, reminder coming up, the Old Miners Tavern. Dan Steck will be there on April 23rd. We will be there for that event as well. And in the business spotlight, if you will, on closer to Mother's Day on Saturday, May 9th. It might actually be the day before Mother's Day. I haven't checked the calendar. From 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., Hunter Way Farm is hosting basically another crafting event type thing for vendors and things like that, as they usually do there. And that's a great event for the community and what Taylor has done there. And I would recommend supporting her in that, or supporting that. They really, Hunter Way Farm has become a great place for the community to have a great amount of life and activity and just genuine fun and a good time. And so do support that. And I want to congratulate Taylor Sprague on on that whole thing for doing for building that business from the ground up, like we're doing here at the Moriah channel. And she was honored with a Women of Distinction award back in the fall. And so congratulations on that. So we have had perhaps pretty much a very slow news day, somewhat. Not that that's really anything to complain about these days. But that is the Moriah Nightly News for this Monday evening, now into Tuesday morning. Do be sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, now on Instagram. We are now on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and as of this weekend, we have even expanded over onto X, formerly Twitter, and we'll be posting there as well. So I do thank you again. Your support in this endeavor has been the best part of being able to do this, being able to get things off the ground. We've had over 50,000 people have seen us on Facebook, and about 5,000 to 6,000 have fully engaged with the page more fully, if I understand how that all works correctly. Still learning as I go type thing. And that's the joy of it. Is the beauty of building something is you learn as you go. You make mistakes along the way, like you have a few audio glitches, and you learn as you go. So again, that is the Moriah Nightly News for this Monday night, and good night.